Welcome,
As,
welcome.
as we're just committing on the air to doing our weekly seminar series, which begins tomorrow night. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Trump Tyranny Tracker. Olga Lautman of the Trump Tyranny Tracker is here. I'm Zev Shalev from narrative.org. It's good to be with you. How's your weekend, Olga?
Good, good. I got energized yesterday from the
Oh,
wonderful
sure.
news in Ukraine. Like that gave me the fuel I needed. You know, that re-energized me to keep going like full force. So
Yeah, we're going to get into that a little bit later on, but wow, incredible. I mean, that is just it's almost like right out of a James Bond movie. It's incredible that they were able to achieve, and the audacity of it all, the tenaciousness, the secrecy, all brilliant stuff, and really puts Russia on its back foot, which is exactly what needs to happen. So we'll talk about that in a second. But we should tell people that tomorrow night we're starting our first, our summer series of seminars, and we're going to do it all about authoritarianism 101, which is really about how you can identify what it is, how you can track what it is, how you can fight it in very practical terms. And it's going to be a very relaxed conversational kind of format, so no one needs to feel intimidated about being there. But Olga and I are going to work through some sort of, plan. So it's not going to just be completely haphazard, but hopefully throughout these 8 weeks or whatever it is, you'll be able to really get a grasp on what authoritarianism really is, because a lot of people use this term loosely everywhere, but what does it really mean, and how can you identify it? How can you track that it's really happening in your society? And how at what point is it really risky, and what points is it less risky? So we're going to try and identify all that for you in this very interactive, hopefully 8 weeks, maybe a longer course as we start tomorrow night. But I'm really excited, Olga. What are you hoping to achieve?
I'm hoping to basically, wake people up, more people, to what is happening, to show the, tactics and have people get concerned enough that, more and more get involved because, the thing is, we keep saying the judiciary is the last check on power, and I keep saying the last check on power is the people. And this, I think, is the most important part. And people get motivated and involved when they realize the seriousness, plus when it starts hitting their own household. So that's my hope to achieve it. Because fortunately, in this case, unfortunately, but fortunately, the United States has really never had to deal with authoritarianism, and really doesn't understand it quite as well as they should. And in Eastern Europe, I mean, this has been the story for centuries. So bringing that experience to kind of flag, like, hello, this happened in Russia. It's happening here. Is extremely important. And someone said Slava Ukraini, Geroyam Slava. I can't. I still have chills. I'm sick like a dog today, but this and yesterday, but yesterday's news really. I mean, it it was fascinating, and we'll get
Yeah,
into it.
yeah, we will get into it. Let me just quickly tell people it's 8 p.m. tomorrow night, every Tuesday for the next few weeks. It's for paid subscribers of either your 2 or 3 Substacks. You've got Trump Tyranny Tracker, you've got
Too.
Unmasking Russia. Okay, those 2. And or of narrative.org. If you're a paid member of any of those, you will get access to these seminars. And it's a real seminar. You'll walk away with real tools, with real understanding. It's not just going to be us talking. There'll be a lot of us talking, but there'll be everyone talking. But also the
Yeah.
idea is to really give you the tools and the understanding of what we're fighting, how we're fighting it, and the best way to unravel it as it keeps happening around us. So,
And
it'll be
and the
interesting.
most important is to be to interact because the Substack live format is amazing, but it always feels like I feel like we're talking at people, and with these private meetings, it's like you can actually get to know people and know what's happening around the country, and have normal conversations, not just try quickly to catch on to like a comment made and respond.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And also, we're dealing with something in real time. I mean, this is happening to us
Thank you.
as we're talking. So, it's going to be really great to be able to understand our current world using these tools that are more like normally used for historical things. But let's get into the show. So, Ukraine Security Services launched Operation Spiderweb. a daring long range drone assault that penetrated over 4,000 kilometers into Russian territory, striking 4 air bases and destroying or damaging 41 strategic aircraft, including A-50s, Tu-95s, and Tu-22 M3s. They were using FPV drones hidden in mobile trucks. The operation was personally overseen by SBU Chief Vasyl Malyuk and President Zelensky himself. Russian bombers described as burning en masse in what represents one of the most significant tactical victories for Ukraine's intelligence services. And really one of the most historic moments in any war that I can think of. I mean, it's unbelievable James Bondy kind of stuff. Under $1,000 per drone, and they were able to destroy bombers worth billions of dollars.
I don't even know where to begin with this. First of all, this goes to show you Ukrainians will never belong to Russia, will never, will fight to the last to be their own sovereign, independent country. And with that, they have such ingenuity. And unfortunately, the United States and Europe has held Ukraine back because, frankly, if any Western intelligence agency knew what was coming, they would have been, forget it. I mean, they'd be shitting bricks, frankly. And this was the thing. The Ukrainians always have this out of the box thinking because they need to survive. They will do whatever they can. And they've been fighting the full scale invasion. Plus, we're now going on to 11 and a half years of since Russia's invasion initially, with their hands tied behind their back. And now, with the fact that you have Europe still talking, I mean, they're moving weapons and whatnot. Um, and the United States, frankly, out of play, now Ukrainians feel more emboldened that they need to survive. I mean, this is survival. And the fact that they pulled this operation off, first of all, I mean, I watched videos, inside Russia as these that were circulating as these drones were taking off. And I mean, just the creativity to move in these wooden sheds, to move in these drones, to have Russian truck drivers not even knowing that they're driving,
These trucks.
devices,
Yeah.
and to take out
Yeah.
40% of Russia's, strategic bomber fleet. I mean,
It's unbelievable.
can you imagine, like, 40%? I don't think Russia has as far as operational. They have maybe, I don't know, under 90, 95 strategic bombers in all categories. I mean, taking out 41 is incredible. Um, and that's it. And it just goes to show you. I mean, yesterday someone mentioned before, who has the cards. I mean, I saw the funniest memes going around because it's like, basically Ukraine showing they do have the cards.
Mhm.
Um, and here they carried out this operation on their own with their own intelligence and with their own weapons. And I'm sure this is one in many series we've seen. I mean, look, Ukraine prior doesn't have a navy. Russia destroyed its naval capabilities. They've been rebuilding it in 2014. Um, Without a navy, they took out most of Russia's Black Sea
Fleet.
fleet. So I mean, they will do what they have to. And that's it. And then um, the panic on the Russian side was fascinating. I
Mhm.
followed a few, of the military propagandists on Telegram yesterday. I mean, they were melting down. The Western shells melting down. The academics on Russia's payroll, sitting and like putting this bullshit like, oh, now this should have never happened. Because now
Why?
Russia's really gonna
Yeah.
respond. How Russia's really gonna respond? What are they gonna do? Invade Ukraine? I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. And with
what are
what
they gonna
bombers,
do?
you
So
know?
it was amazing. It was amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing more. Frankly, my last two operations that I wish would speed up would be the illegal bridge, Kerch Bridge, for it to be blown up, and frankly for Putin to drop dead. I think that's the last two. Yeah, World War III. So much World War III mongering. Um, then by because Russia was taken aback. By late afternoon yesterday, they came on a very thing that now they're all, showing videos and putting out videos that they're about to fire the Oreshnik missile. Get the hell out of here with your Oreshnik and all the nonsense.
It is a real
They've
failure.
been throwing everything at Ukraine.
Mm,
I mean, if
yeah,
anyone thinks Russia's been holding back, they have bombed freaking neighborhood after neighborhood, erased villages and towns. Russia has not been holding back. So,
no,
and the icing on the cake is the fact that, U.S. media finally, when it got to them, that they, were kind of scratching their head. Why didn't Ukraine tell Trump? The White House was not notified. I don't know, maybe because they don't want the Kremlin to know.
exactly. And, basically it leaves very clearly Trump and the United States on the wrong side of history, and in the wrong side of democracy, and on the wrong side of fighting for people's rights. It clearly shows exactly who Zelensky trusts and who he doesn't trust, and he absolutely doesn't trust Trump for good reason. As he's been stymieing so much of his efforts to get weapons of all sorts, including the air defense weapons that they've been asking for a long time. But this was a real David and Goliath kind of thing. I mean, this is a massive army. This is Russia. This is the Russian army. It's meant to be so formidable, and here come these smart and ambitious and ingenious Ukrainians who come up with this way of getting these drones into Russian territory using these trucks. And you're right; those videos were amazing. I mean, watching these Russian truck drivers running around, and then the whole thing just self destructs, right? I get whereas as Russians are approaching it, because these drones have been taking out bombers, and people are finally going to try approach this truck, which is firing off all these weapons. And then it blows up. Like, I mean, they thought of everything, these retractable roofs, it's just, and no, not a single Ukrainian operative was stopped. Not a single person was taken. I mean, that's unbelievable. It says so much about their ingenuity, but it also speaks about their drone industry, which is, this is why when you're up against the biggest odds, you are the most creative, I think. And when it really matters to you to defend democracy because you don't want to live under Russians, thumb, then you'll invent and reinvent and come up with the most ingenious things. And the drones that Ukraine has been able to build
Yeah.
in the entire industry, they're the world leaders now. Do you have a sense just of, this is a real, like I mean, Russia has drones too, but the fact that they've been able to outperform them in this really smart way is quite remarkable.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, because look, they understood. First of all, the betrayal runs deep with the West because, again, we had the United States and UK guarantee, Ukraine's sovereignty, force them to give up nuclear weapons. In 2014, when Russia illegally invaded, annexed Crimea, and occupied Donbass, the United Obama was nowhere to be found. If anything, it was Joe Biden fighting from behind the scenes to try to get some kind of weapons to Ukraine, um, and no one was there to protect the sovereignty. So, Ukrainians understand they're on their own. Unfortunately, this is the sentiment. Of course, we're grateful for every weapon, for every, ammunition. But the bottom line is that, we understand no one is going to come save us. And this is why early on, after the full scale invasion, when there was so much hesitation with the West. And now I just want to remind people Ukraine is fighting North Korean troops, Russian troops, weapons flowing in from China, from North Korea, and from Iran. And Ukraine has to handle it on its own. No one in Europe is providing air cover for Ukraine. You have weapons trickling in, but you saw, I mean, the nonsense that was happening that frankly, cost so many lives when you had, the United States and Germany publicly. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Publicly, 6 months debating, should we send this tank?
Mm,
No, we shouldn't. Putin's going to be
mm,
upset. This might be escalation. And I mean, these public debates, then it went with the planes, then it went with the longer range missiles, so I mean, Ukrainians immediately understood and decided to, like, we need to start developing weapons. And, I laugh because for all the, propagandists in the West and Russia who carry on about Ukraine joining NATO. Frankly, I mean the after all these operations, and you would have seen what happened yesterday, you would have seen it happening more frequently had Jake Sullivan, Biden's national security advisor, and Schultz in Germany, had they not held Ukraine back. You would have seen this happening, and we saw so many fascinating operations over the past few years, but they understand. They're on their own.
Hmm.
I mean, you have the Poles, you have Romanians, others who've had fragments of, Russian drones fall on their territory or Russian missiles going through Polish territory on its way to strike a Ukrainian city. Is anyone knocking this down? Poles scramble, their jets, but then when they see that it's not has no chance of touching Polish, like falling on the ground, they let it proceed to a Ukrainian city where it, hits something. And same thing with Romanians. And again, thank you to everyone who's been helping. But the bottom line is this is a situation. Ukraine has no air cover, is being bombarded. I mean, over a 3-day period last week, 1,000 drones. Over 1,000 drones striking neighborhoods, dozens of ballistic missiles. So this is why, they understand and have been working on building their own weapons. And like I said, the joke is it's like, should Ukraine take NATO? Because out of the whole NATO force, Ukraine is the only one who actually knows how to fight different scenarios, from guerrilla door-to-door warfare to the trenches to, drone warfare, sophisticated, operations like this, which included both drones and, moving operatives inside of Russia, moving them back out, having everything in place. So, I mean, that was a joke yesterday amongst everyone. Like, oh, should Ukraine take NATO in? Because we're the only ones who have the experience.
It's so true. I mean, there's certainly the world is going to be looking to the drones industry in Ukraine as the model, and also going to be the supplier of so many drones for many of the Western countries around the world. But just to underline the point of what you're making there about Donald Trump has, in some way, with his pro-Russian policies, really unleashed the Ukrainians. And now we're able to really see what they're capable of, because they no longer have the restrictions
Nope.
that previous administration had placed on them in an attempt to create this broad alliance. And now they're saying, in some ways that Oval Office meeting, or whatever it was, an ambush, wasn't really a meeting, really exemplified how not on side Donald Trump and the United States is in Ukraine, and it allowed Zelensky a lot more confidence in terms of just going it alone, making his own decisions, and doing these incredible operations. Really incredible stuff. I mean, it's historic and mind blowing, and I'm sure there's more. I mean,
Oh, yeah, there's more definitely coming down the pipeline. And, again, it's about survival.
and
And no
talks
one's
begin
coming to save
to
Ukraine.
yeah, and talks begin
Ukrainians.
tomorrow, right? Or they start today? I'm not really sure.
No,
These
the
the
talks had earlier. I mean,
Okay.
and that's another thing people don't understand, and we've had this conversation. N- War is not going to end by any kind of negotiations. The only way to end this once and for all, the centuries. This is not one war. This is centuries of Russia's barbarism, between Ukrainians and the Georgians and the Polish. I mean, frankly, everyone, anyone unfortunate enough to be, Russia's neighbor, has gone through it. So, I mean, the only way to end this is for a full defeat of Russia inside of Ukraine. And then Russia can go lick its wounds. Putin will probably be, assassinated because he failed as a leader. And Russians demand a leader who can promise and expand and bring, their greatness back, in their head, their greatness. And that's it. That's the only way to end this. And this is why, we've all been so perplexed, because this could have been ended if Ukraine had weapons
Mhm.
years ago.
And
So,
more, effective oil sanctions would have made a huge difference. But let's go to domestic authoritarianism now. The Department of Veterans Affairs has ordered its doctors and scientists not to publish in medical journals or speak publicly without clearance from Trump officials. This is unbelievable. This directive came immediately after Virginia doctors, this is Veterans Affairs doctors, warned in the New England Journal of Medicine that staff purges threatened care for veterans exposed to toxins. Internal emails reveal political aides moved quickly to clamp down, citing potential negative national exposures. You've got the Trump administration playing PR gatekeeper, I guess, for the medical community through the HHS. So this is really unbelievable.
It is, and I mean, more so is a underlying authoritarian tactic. So
Mm.
now, you know, what makes them democratic, governments so great is the transparency and the fact that now they want to block. And this goes with intelligence also. I mean, we've had this conversation with intelligence reports, now it's scientific journals. Basically, anything that is not matching their agenda, they want this information to be blocked from getting out to Americans. And this becomes very dangerous territory because, frankly, they will rewrite, you know, uh, based on their agenda, whether it's intelligence reports, national security reports, scientific reports. And this becomes extremely dangerous because we are in authoritarian territory when the government not only controls the information, but adjusts the information based on their agenda and what the public can see.
Yeah.
And this happens in Russia all the time.
I mean, just think about that on a pandemic level. If they weren't releasing information that could save your lives, your family's lives, or any other scientific data, they're muzzling. This is not the American way. The American
No.
way is to allow people to, a free flow of information. The fact that they're being so restrictive and especially with scientific documentation is,
Imagine
yeah.
they warned in a journal that these staff purges are going to have a negative effect. And it's like, okay, you are not allowed to go and publish anything until you clear it with us.
And these are
So,
veterans. I mean, these are people who are, their exposure to toxins are people who we should be looking after very, very carefully because they serve the country in the way that they have, and not to give them the details of these studies is just nonsensical. In another unprecedented escalation, Department of Homeland Security agents stormed Jerry Nadler's Manhattan office. He's the Democratic representative, of course, for Manhattan District. They handcuffed a staffer and accused them of harboring rioters after immigration advocates were allowed inside to escape ICE threats. Unbelievable. The confrontation was caught on video and follows the arrest of New York's mayor, signaling a dramatic escalation of federal intimidation tactics against elected officials and their staffers for doing what they should be doing, which is, being activists.
exactly. And this, again, is authoritarian territory because now we've had the mayor of Newark arrested. Granted, charges were dropped, but he should have never had to go through this arrest to begin with because he was accompanying Congress people to carry out their oversight responsibility at an ICE facility. So, I mean, that arrest was bullshit. Then we had one of the Congress women who was trying to carry out this oversight, indicted recently. Now we have ICE agents storming Democratic offices. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've seen scenes like this play out in Russia,
Mhm.
whether it's opposition headquarters or, their offices in other branches across the country, whether it's journalists, whether it's a memorial, which was, an organization that was documenting Stalin's war crimes and ultimately was shut down, labeled a foreign agent, shut down. I mean, and it starts like this, and then it ends with jailings and poisonings and other, things to remove opposition using the rule of the law, again, twisting the rule of the law and the weaponization of agencies to shut down opposition.
It really
And the
is.
fact this happened, disgusting.
And harboring rioters is not what was going on, and just
No.
labeling them as rioters, but it's the use of semantics like that they're getting away with it because
Yeah,
they're tying it to all these things like terrorism, rioting. That's not what's happening. These people are
not at all.
just being
Not at all.
activists, and that's perfectly legal under the law. Uh,
Absolutely.
it's really it's very concerning that this is going on. And it is, as you point out, a typical thing that happens under authoritarianism. And our final story today reveals Trump has expanded Palantir's role across federal agencies to merge data on Americans into centralized systems. The company's Foundry platform is now operational at DHS, HHS, and the IRS, with talks underway at the SSA and Education Department. Elon Musk helped drive this expansion, creating an unprecedented surveillance infrastructure with Peter Thiel's controversial data company. I've been reporting about this from Narrative a few weeks ago. We did this Palantir story. It's now officially been confirmed. But we too. We've both been doing it. We know this. This is the system they've built.
Before I even get into this, I actually want to make everyone laugh. So this Palantir story, which, thank you to New York Times for catching up a few months
Yeah.
after it's happening. But this Palantir story is causing waves in mega circles. And you have these like mega loyalist accounts who are absolutely against the government's surveillance and a surveillance state, which is
Remember
interesting.
libertarianism? That was a thing in the Republican circles.
Yeah. And so you have these Trump loyalists who are now turning on him. And there's, like I said, a split. So I was scrolling the other day to see what is happening here, like, and going through and checking a few of these accounts, who retweets who. And I find I wrote an article exactly about this and
Mhm.
Musk and surveillance, April 15th. I find one of these accounts using a screenshot of my article of Musk Doge, the centralized surveillance
Oh, I
state
remember
being
that. Yes.
built, and me as an expert that they're using to
You're officially now a MAGA expert. Well done. Well done. You crossed over. You got a
And
broad
I
audience.
was like, wow, 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 wow. Like now you have mega circles. I mean, little, if they looked at my account, they would see that, I'm anti-Trump. I mean, to the hardest of like hardcore. But and Republican, anti-Republican. But so on a funnier note, they're using the article I wrote as like a citation, a credible source of what is happening, which was
Fantastic.
fascinating.
It
But
is, of
on
course. But
a
it's
bigger
interesting they're
picture,
using it. Oh, it's good
imagine
stuff.
I'm going to become an expert in mega circles.
Infiltrate them. It's the best way to get them to change. But
But
let's
on
talk a
a
little bit about
serious
yeah.
note, we've been reporting this. There,
Yeah.
this just further confirms that they are building a surveillance state. That media ran last week, ran around, doing a PR rehabilitation tour that Musk is out. And in order to try to save his companies and stock prices. Um, and giving him this, distancing. Meanwhile, this is the furthest from the truth. Musk came in with his freaking unauthorized Doge,
Mhm.
and their main goal, as we've been speaking about for months now, is to create a centralized surveillance system. And New York Times reported a part of this reporting with the Palantir, Trump tapping Palantir, but the Palantir former employees have been there since January 20th
Yeah.
when this unauthorized Doge and Musk started moving in. I mean, so this has been happening for months, and that is the bigger thing. And we really, really, I mean, out of all the alarming things, this is the one that we need to keep pushing back on.
It is alarming, especially because we're not really even sure where the data is, and we're not even sure if it's still in the United States controls. It could be that it's on some independent servers or Russian servers, or who knows. The whole government infrastructure could be held hostage by this coalition of Thiel and Musk. And and I guess Trump at some point, if that's the case, he's going to say that he never knew about it, which is bullshit, of course. But if you didn't know about it, it's just the worst kind of presidency you can ever imagine, allowing these people to get away with the theft of so much data. And if he did know about it, which we probably did, then it's just another complete sign of treason. I mean, there's so much going on here that is just so wrong. And as you point out, that weird press conference on Friday with Musk, whatever that was. I mean, it was stagecraft designed to make it seem like there was some sort of continuity and unity between the two of them. But I could tell that these guys do not like each other. They obviously don't like each other, but they are still working together. And even though the coalition, as might be fraying at the seams as people are discovering exactly what it means to have a MAGA rule. Trump is an authoritarian, and Trump is going to need a surveillance state in order to succeed as an authoritarian leader. So yes, Republicans, this is what you voted for. This is the system you voted for. And don't be shocked that now, when it's arrived and everyone's like revealing, hey, the surveillance system is here, don't be shocked that's happening. It's happening.
Yeah, and just to like underscore the importance of this look, I mean, that's another story where the data is stored,
Mm.
but this data can be weaponized against us. And this is exactly how every authoritarian state has shut down opposition. Because they can literally go through AI, take our full data that they have taken from different agencies, fuse it together, and there they know the vulnerabilities. They
Hmm.
can throw this into AI and say, give me a list of the most problematic people that need to be silenced first. This AI will, scan everything based off of the data and pump out a list. Give me a list of people fighting for disability rights. It will go and put out a list on that. Give me Olga Lautman. She's a headache. Give me vulnerabilities. It will go through all the agencies, all the data, and then say, oh, okay, you know what? Here's the whole dossier on her, and here's like basically an intelligence profile
Not
based of
only
all
that.
the data gathered. So, I mean, with this data, they know who your doctors are,
Mm.
they know your social security, how often you change jobs, where you work, how many children you have, is anyone in your family of disability, or is reliant on state checks? I mean, every single thing that you
Let me
could
add to
think of.
that, because I think one of the two things that people don't realize, and this is something that I reported on Narrative in the new feudalism system in the reporting that I've done, is that they are tracking IP addresses
Yeah,
for your phones. So wherever your phone is, they know where you are and they can track you immediately. So when they do that report on you, they'll be able to say, oh, Olga's at this location right now. On top of that, they're using facial recognition from Clearview, also not
yep,
reported very widely.
yeah.
Clearview is a very problematic company, but it's a facial recognition company, which means those networks of cameras around North America that every time you walk down a street, there's so many cameras pointing at you, can now be used to track you personally as you're walking down the street, every little bit of activity you're doing. And AI can, because it's AI is ubiquitous, they can track what you're doing specifically for a long period of time. In other words, they can follow you around based on their needs. And if they want to take some action against you, there's also drones. They can do so many things. Not you specifically, but you know what I mean. There's so much action that they can take against individuals. Firstly, by compromising their privacy, and then secondly, by knowing exactly where they are, knowing exactly what they're doing at every single step, they can then do anything they can or want to that person. So it's very
And
it's
and you mentioned drones. I mean, the whistleblower
mm,
who revealed, some damning
yeah.
stuff. One of the things was that, he was threatened. And again, this is government resources
Hmm.
doing this, threatened with having photos of him walking his dog.
Yeah.
And they hung this photos and left it at his door.
Yep.
First of all, he had recently moved there, and the only one who knew his address was the government.
Mm.
Second of all, it was drone footage.
Yeah.
And
The
basically,
drone.
with a letter, back off. Like,
Hmm.
don't, luckily he continued being a whistleblower and, blowing the whole story on Musk's activity in that agency. But the bottom line is the government is using drones now to intimidate and like follow you walking your dog. I
There's
mean, it's
absolutely no privacy, no freedom of movement, no anything anymore. And we know this is a system they've built. Now, is it being implemented against all citizens yet? We don't know. We just don't know. We don't know how far it's being used against
Well,
immigrants
they're
for sure.
testing it right now on
Yeah,
immigrants and
yeah.
international
But
students, so
who knows how slippery is that slope before it's used against everybody?
what
Because just the way it is. We've taken so long on the tracker today, and I've got another show in 25 minutes. So everybody, please join us tomorrow night as we do the first of our summer series of seminars about authoritarianism 101. It's at 8 p.m. You have to be a paid member of one of our newsletters, and you get access to this course, which I think is going to be really interesting and very fun and interactive and interesting for everybody. So we learn how to identify authoritarianism and fight it. And so that's tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Don't forget to follow the Trump Tyranny Tracker at trumptyrannytracker.substack.com. And of course, don't forget to become a paid subscriber to Olga's fine newsletter, because it's the best one tracking
and yours.
authoritarianism, and mine at narrative.org. Feel better, Olga, and I'm glad you had a good
Thank you.
day with yesterday's story. So I hope you feel better.
Yes.
That was a good thing that
It's a
happened.
much needed fuel to keep going.
We'll keep going. So thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow at
Thank
2
you,
p.m. and
everyone.
I'll see you again at 3 with Dean Blundell. Cheers, everyone.
Bye.